Welcome back to another episode of Love It There. If you happen to be watching on video, you might be a little confused as to what this new location is.
We have a brand new podcast studio.
Just kidding. This is actually where we grew up. So we're just at the parents for the weekend. So we decided we would do something fun and record our first ever episode together.
It's been so fun. We have our little drinks here. We're having a grand old time recording together for our first episode in the same location, which is super exciting.
It is. It's so fun. So yeah, today's episode, we're obviously doing just a Q&A. So it's going to be casual. We got all of our questions here. Shout out to our loyal fans who submitted questions. We love you. And we're just going to kind of run through them. And
if we have a little bit of time at the end, we might run through some travel hacking sort of information. There's a couple articles that talks about like when the best time is to buy a flight, both domestic and international, and some stuff like that I think is very interesting. So we'll get to that if we have time at the end.
For sure. Okay. Well, yeah, that's pretty much it. And we're going to go ahead and get into it. Enjoy today's Q&A episode. Okay. I'm just going to choose a random question to start us off. We're going to do solo traveling tips. That was a question that somebody sent in. I have never traveled completely by myself, but I did run into some people when I was abroad that I did meet that were traveling alone. And so I kind of like picked their brain about it. And I was like, isn't it like scary? Like, don't you get lonely? Like, because I would talk to girls that were traveling alone, like young girls in their 20s. I'm like, I would be so nervous doing that. But one girl that I met, she was just like, no, I've like, as soon as I got here, like I booked all hostels, which I was like, that would like be scary. But she was like, no, it's so the way to go because that's how you meet people. Right. And like anybody that's traveling alone will usually stay in hostels, or like even if you're staying with like just one other person, like traveling together, like a lot of people that aren't in big groups will choose to do hostels because it's usually cheaper. And then doing it that way, you get to meet so many different people that also like don't really have people to hang out with. And so it's a great way to meet people. And then like obviously you're not going to be traveling from place to place with them if you just like meet them there, but a lot of times like then when you're in that place you'll like meet people to do stuff with. And she was like, that's what I've done this whole month that I've been in Europe. I've made so many friends, people that like you still stay in contact with. And like I still follow this girl on Instagram and I just like randomly met her when I was there. But so that would be like if I were ever to travel solo, I would definitely choose to stay in hostels and obviously like read reviews and make sure that they're like okay, because some of them are like actually sketch, but there's also nice hostels that like are still affordable too.
Yeah, I've never done much like solo travel either. The only thing is when right before my study abroad program started, I stayed in a hostel by myself for one night before I stayed with my host family because I was in Europe ahead of time traveling with Jackson. And then he left to fly back to the States, and then I had to stay in a hostel one night by myself before the program started, and I stayed with my host family. But it was because okay, so then I like went to dinner by myself, and you just have to safety wise just be aware of everything or just plan ahead. So if you have luggage and stuff like that and you're going out to dinner, if you have to like go to the bathroom, you can't just like leave your luggage at the table. So you just have to kind of like plan ahead for that sort of thing. You cannot leave anything again at the beach. If you like want to go in the water really quick, then you need to have friends someone that you feel like you can trust, or you just truly can't really do those sort of things. So yeah, that's just kind of plan ahead and think through those sort of things to not leave anything unattended. So yeah, the hostel is a good tip to like make friends that way so you can travel with people.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, we always say like how important it is to travel light, but I feel like especially if you're traveling alone, that's like really important to pack as few bags as possible because you're literally going to have to be carrying those around with you everywhere you go.
Yeah. And you have to, people will truly, if you're in a crowded place, they'll swipe something from your bag. So you have to be accountable, or you have to, be paying attention to all of your bags and make sure you know exactly what's going on with them to avoid those pickpocketers.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Let's see. We'll do another question. How hard is it to enter a new country in Europe, like if you take a flight between countries? So, what's your experience with that, Halle?
Okay, my experience was when I flew this past summer, I flew from Philadelphia to Madrid. That was like my international flight. Once I got into Madrid, the security was not bad at all. Went super quick, was not intense at all. If you've ever taken an international flight to get back into the US, like the international security in America is like crazy, which
Right.
is like good, but it's just very different from how it is in Europe. So I mean, I think the only thing they did was they looked at my passport and scanned it, and it maybe took 15 seconds, and then they were like, okay, welcome to Spain. And I was like, wow, okay, that was easy.
Yeah.
When I flew from like within Europe, like within the European Union, didn't even get my ID checked
Yeah,
once.
it's so chill.
Like
It's so
I
chill.
was shocked at how easy it was. Like it was kind of concerning.
Yeah. No, I mean it felt like just going from the States, like a domestic flight within the United States.
But like
That's how it felt.
less
Yeah, probably
intense
less.
even.
Yeah.
Because I mean, even in the US, they're always like checking your ID. They check
Yeah.
everything. Like the security was super intense. Like I didn't have to take a single thing out of my backpack. I
Right.
didn't like literally nothing. Like it was crazy.
Yeah.
So
I think the only country within Europe that I've been questioned like a ton before is when we flew into London.
Mhm.
And Halle mentioned London's not in the European Union anymore, so it's might be a little bit different than flying within the EU, going from another European country to
Right.
London.
It's probably going to be more intense.
Right.
I've never flown from a European country into London. The only time I have flown through London, but it was when I came from the US. And
Yeah.
there was more intense security when I arrived in London than there was when I arrived from the US to Madrid. So it might just be a London thing in general. And I don't
Yeah.
know if since they've left the EU, if that security is more intense or not. I can't like speak
It wasn't
on that.
when I talk about them being so intense, it wasn't even security. It was when they question you, like, why are you coming to the country? What are you planning on doing here? How long are you staying here? What are you bringing with you? It was those sorts of questions. And they're asking like us, these young college students. So it's like, what are they asking people that actually maybe would look more suspicious? Like, I don't know. We don't look that suspicious. So that was very interesting to me. But you get through and it's fine. It doesn't take that long, but just be ready for that. They ask those kind of questions to everybody. So don't be like,
don't take it personally.
Yeah,
exactly. Okay, let me find one. Okay, train or flight between European countries?
I think a lot of this would maybe depend on kind of what bags you have. If you have a huge checked bag, the flights are going to be super cheap, but the cost to check your bag is going to be that's going to up it to a decently priced flight. And so if you have a good option for a train, I like that one because you can kind of enjoy the scenery too and like see where you're going, and you don't have to, a lot of times it's going to be cheaper. And so if there's a feasible option that doesn't take too long, I think that's honestly a good idea. If you don't have any big bags, you're just having like a carry-on bag, then a flight is going to be super cheap and super quick.
Yeah.
So kind of just depends on that.
The other thing with trains though that is nice is there's a lot more high-speed trains that are available than there were even like 5 or 10 years ago. Like they're starting to put those in a lot more frequently. And so you can get from place to place on a high-speed train almost as quick as you could fly.
Right.
Unless it's like, I mean, it depends how far, but like I took a high-speed train from Madrid to Barcelona when I was in Spain, and it would have taken the same amount of time to fly, and it ended up just
when you
being
account
cheaper.
For the transport to the airport and then getting through security and then getting off the plane and getting your bag if you had to check a bag.
So it ended up being easier for us to take a train, but if you were going from Madrid to Paris or Madrid to Germany, and longer distances, it would probably be easier to fly. But yeah, it depends on cost. So just keep in mind that a lot of times when people say it's super cheap to fly in Europe, these flights include nothing.
Right.
So you can find $40 plane tickets, but they don't include a carry-on and they don't include a checked bag. And so you just have to keep in mind that you're going to have to add in those prices, do your own calculations and math, and know what you're getting yourself into before you do that. It's just like set up a little differently than it is in the US. So,
and I think we've mentioned this app before, but Rome to Rio, it's a website and they have an app. That's a really good resource to use to find train tickets and train prices and routes and times and things like that. So just look into wherever you're going and plug it into this Rome to Rio app and see what your options are. Something else I wanted to mention that I don't know if everybody knows about, but even getting into London, if you want to avoid the airport, they have an underground train.
Underwater.
I mean, it goes through the water. It's like
in London?
Yeah, from like Paris.
From Paris. Yeah.
It because
I thought you meant from the London airport to get into like
to get to the island, to get to the United Kingdom. It's an island, so to get there if you don't want to fly, it's this like underwater train.
No, that is a good point, because a lot of people think that like, oh well, I can't take a train, I have to fly to if I want to get to London. But no, there actually is a train that goes from Paris to London. And that's actually like a bucket list item. I've just like always wanted to. Well, you can also drive. There's like a road too that literally goes underwater, which is like crazy to me.
I know.
So I definitely want to do that at some point, just to say I've done it. But
I know that would be cool. Okay, let's see. Next question. Love your podcast. Thank you. What's the best food you've had while traveling?
Okay, I've already talked about this on a previous episode, but
I bet I know.
What?
Your sushi that you had in Alcoa.
Yes. I think about that way too much. It was the best food I've ever had in my life. Not even in Europe, like just ever. It was so good. And in Madrid, which isn't even a coastal town. So who knew? But Quixote Sushi in Alcalá, if you're in Madrid, you have to go. It's so good.
A Michelin star restaurant within the budget of a college student.
Yes, it was so cheap and so good.
We love that. Okay, mine, this was hard for me. I have like two I feel like that are tied or that came to mind. One is the paella that my host mom made.
Oh yeah, that's so good.
So good, and just, you know, the memories tied to that
special place
so
in
great.
your heart.
Yes, paella in Spain is amazing, especially homemade. And then also the fondue we had in Switzerland, the cheese fondue was delicious. So that's definitely up there. And then as a runner up is the cannoli that I had in Venice that I still think about.
The cannolis. Yeah. Cannolis are so good.
It's had true Italian cannolis. So, but okay, I do want to say I'm going to France in like a month, and we're going to Lyon, which is supposed to be like the foodie capital of the world.
I've seen so much about that. Like on my Instagram reels, it's all about like, you have to go to this town in France, and it's always Lyon.
Yeah, we're doing a food tour there, so I'm super excited. So I might have an updated answer after we go to France. So.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to be so good. Okay. Okay, here's an interesting question. I don't even know how to get into this.
No, just do it. Just do it.
Do you know any girls that are 5'6"? I don't.
So, okay, I think.
Do we say who submitted it? I feel like we need to get mom on here.
Mom does not want to be on our podcast. Okay, our mom submitted this question. Well, Halle and our mom were talking about this. I was not in this original conversation. So, Halle, explain.
Okay, let me give context to this question, because you are listening to this and you're probably like, what does this even mean? So the other day I was home like last weekend, and my mom just like asked me this question. She's like, Halle, like, don't you think it's weird that you never hear anyone, like a girl, say that their height is 5'6"? I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, anyone, like, they always say they're either 5'5" or 5'7". Like, nobody ever says they're 5'6". And I was like, I mean, I've definitely never thought about this in my life, but I'm like, I guess it is true. Like, I can't think of anybody that says.
I mean, yeah, to be honest, I feel like I don't know very many mid-height women. It's either they're tall girls or they're short girls. So
I don't know. I feel like I have a lot of friends that are like 5'5".
Or maybe I just assume because I'm shorter, you're either my height or you're way taller than me.
Yeah,
and that's
true.
how it feels.
And probably the same for me, because I'm like 5'11". And so people are either taller than like over 6 foot to me, or everybody is like way shorter. So
if you're 5'6" and you tell people your height is 5'6", comment in. But
because
I don't know.
Now we're like, I am like a little curious about this, but I'm like, there's no way this is some like actual conspiracy.
Okay. Well, more interesting to me than the female conundrum of how tall you are is we also got a question. Do 5'11" guys exist? And this I feel like is more true because no guy is ever going to say they're 5'11".
They're always
He's going to say he's 6 foot. And so if a guy actually says he's 5'11",
then they're actually like 5'8".
Yeah, exactly. So that I feel like no guy will ever say his height is 5'11".
Yeah, definitely not. Because if you're close enough to say you're 5'11" and it be believable, then you would say you're 6 foot.
And if you're, yeah, and even if you're like 5'8", 5'9", you're not going to round up to 5'11". You'd round up to 5'10".
Yeah,
probably.
exactly.
So that I feel like no guy will ever admit that he's 5'11".
Right.
Or just say he's 5'11".
Right. I 100% believe that.
Yeah. So let us know what you guys think of that.
So guys, if you're actually 5'11", just be honest. It's okay.
It's okay.
5'11" is a great height. That's how tall I am.
Yeah.
So it's okay. Okay. Back to more travel content. Sorry, that was a little bit of a tangent. What's a good game to take on a trip? I like this question.
I say a deck of cards always does not take up room. You can do so many things with it. You can do solo games if you're bored. You can do two-person games.
Solitaire.
If you meet friends, you can do like big person game or big group games, big person games, 5'11" games.
Yeah.
Big group games. Yeah, deck of cards always, if you can only pack one. Another thought, though, would be like anything you can do on your phone, like Heads Up or something like that, like those sort of games.
Yeah.
They don't take up room. You're already going to have your phone with you.
Another game that our family plays a lot and also doesn't take up a lot of space is Bananagrams.
Oh, true.
If you've ever heard of that. If not, it's kind of like Scrabble, but it all fits in like a little banana-shaped pouch.
Yeah.
And it's literally like this big, and it's
oh my gosh,
so easy to just throw in somewhere.
That was like our COVID game. We played Bananagrams
like
so
way
much.
Too much.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's a good one.
Another thing that it takes up relatively little space, it's a card game. It's called Seek Discomfort, and it's kind of like it's like get cards of questions that you can like ask each other.
Okay.
And some of them are like more surface level and some of them are more in depth. So it's good to play with like people that you already know. Like it's not something great to like bring out to a group of people that you are just meeting for the first time on your solo travel trip. But if you're traveling with like a group of friends or like with a significant other, it's a great thing to bring when you're just kind of trying to kill time. If you're on like a flight or waiting at an airport or on a long train ride, it's just like good questions to like start conversation. And one of my like good friends told me about it, and she said she loves playing with like all of her friends, and it's just like it's not like the most exciting and riveting game, but it's just like a good way to kill time. It gets like genuine conversation going,
and
like
you don't need like a table or anything to like set cards out, so you can play like on a train.
Exactly.
And stuff like that.
It's just like conversation starters basically. But yeah, Seek Discomfort. There's like a bunch of different lines of cards, like categories that they have that you can get. So
okay,
yeah,
like that. Okay, another question: how do you budget for traveling?
I don't.
I don't really either.
Vacation. No, that's not good. But
my thoughts on this are, well, I feel like it depends how you interpret this question. If you take if you're talking how do you budget your entire year's worth of expenses for how much you're going to spend on travel, I don't really do that because it just totally depends on what trips I'm doing and things. But when it comes to planning your specific trip, how do you budget how much you're spending on that trip? My thoughts are I try to get as best deals as I can on flights and hotels, Airbnbs, things like that, the money you spend ahead of time before you actually get there, so that you feel okay spending a decent amount of money when you're actually there. Nothing is worse than when you're somewhere amazing and so cool and you feel like you have to hold yourself back.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I am all for sitting in the cheapest seat on a flight. Even if it's an 8-hour-long flight, I will suck it up and deal with it, because if I'm going to spend money, I want to spend money while I'm there and on experiences. Same with lodging. I am like, obviously you want to stay in like not a dangerous area, but as far as like how nice and
It kind of depends on the trip. If we're I feel like a lot of our experience, we've done a decent amount of European travel. And so a lot of our experiences when we talk travel is European travel. And for most European countries, you don't spend a lot of time in your hotel or your Airbnb.
Right.
You're out and about exploring the city or doing whatever, versus if you do something like more of a
lake
beachy,
house or beach, then it's different.
If you're going to be spending more time at your place, then take that into consideration. Your other expenses are probably not going to be as much.
Right.
So, but when you know you're going somewhere where you're going to be eating out a lot or paying for a lot of excursion type activities, save money where you can on lodging, transportation, things like that.
Yeah. But some people are different. Some people are like, if I'm going to be on a vacation, I want to come home in the evening after a long day and I want to be able to relax and have something super nice all to myself, which like I get. So it definitely depends on your preferences, but I'm just more of an experiences type of girl. I want to be able to.
And obviously we're doing a freaking travel podcast, so we love travel. We love spending our money on this kind of thing. So that's just kind of the mindset that we have is I do not mind spending money on travel experiences, memories that you're making. I never regret the amount of money that I spend on things like that because you spend it and it's done. Now you have these memories. You don't think about how much money you spent after it's done, after you've done it.
Until you have to pay the credit card bill.
Well, yeah, but
that's like what all my friends, we like when I was in Europe this summer, we were all just like spending so much money and we were like, it's not a problem until the end of the month. Right. We're like, just don't think about it until you actually have to pay for it.
I know. But even then it's like, I feel like then when you get the bill, it's like, oh, but that was so fun.
Worth it. It was so worth it.
I don't even care.
Exactly.
So save money back at home when, don't be stingy when it comes to making memories when you experience and experiences. So it's worth it. So I don't know. That doesn't really answer the question, but that's our take
not
on it.
Good budgeters. No. Okay, we have one more question that's more travel focused. We're gonna go ahead and knock that out. The question is traveling attire, style or comfort?
When it comes to actually transportation, getting to your destination, always comfort. The people that I see at the airports in jeans and actual outfits, I'm like, what are you doing?
Or full faces of makeup and it'll be like 7 a.m.
I'm like, I guess if you have to leave the airport and go straight to some event or something from your flight, but even then I'm like, maybe you should have planned that better so that you can have time to freshen up after your flight.
No, honestly, the girls, they're like women I see full faces of makeup in the airport. I'm like, props to you because you look great, but like I just could never get myself up to do that.
No, definitely not. But
then comfort all the way.
When you are out and about traveling at your destination,
style. Oh wait, no, I'm just kidding.
I'm like, probably for Halle. For me, I'm like, I'd rather do comfort.
I mean, comfortable shoes for sure. I mean, yeah, it's hard because it's like when you're in Europe, you're gonna be walking around all day, but it's also like you're in Europe, like the fit's gotta pop off. So that was like hard to. I spent a lot of time trying to plan what I was going to wear and how to like make it look good, but also not hate myself every day.
A nice mix of both comfort and style.
Yeah. But also we've talked about this before, like athleisure is just not a thing in Europe. And it's like, ideally I'd put on a cute little like matching set and be on the go all day. But you were just gonna like stick out like a sore thumb as an obvious American, which like obviously there's nothing wrong with that. Like wear what you want. If that's what you want to wear, you can wear it.
Little linen sets are good for a European summer trip or
matching
something like that.
Flowy like.
Although in Switzerland, everybody was in athletic gear because everybody's doing hiking and stuff like that. But definitely not in classic like the
Mediterranean areas. Yeah.
Okay. Next question. So we're moving a little bit away from the travel content here. Halle's taking a drink for this next question because she knows what it is. But then don't turn us off. We have more travel content at the end that we'll get back to. So
taking
just
a little intermission.
Quick little detour for these next couple questions. This question is directed towards Halle. What was your family's first impression on P money, which is Pearson? Halle's boyfriend?
I don't even know. Like we were just talking about this actually, and I was like, mom and dad had like no reaction when they met. Which I feel like people are gonna hear that and be like, oh, that's not good. But like honestly, I just like don't really think they care.
And we talked about this and we're like, this is good that our parents aren't super involved of like
And who our romantic
they
lives.
want
They don't
our
get too invested.
partners to treat us well, and as long as we're happy, then they're like, that's fine, which is good because some people insert themselves into your relationship a little too much where they're like either good or bad, where they're like, oh my gosh, I love this person, they're the best ever, blah blah blah, and then it's like, this isn't the situation going on now. But then if like it makes it harder to like end things with the relationship or whatever because they're your family's like obsessed with them or made it very clear that
I don't want to hurt like my
parents are going to be so disappointed,
devastated if I break up with them, whatever.
But then on the other end, if they like don't care at all, then you're like, do you like this person or not? I feel like our parents are the perfect mix though. They're like, yeah. But also when I first met Hallie's boyfriend, we were at the IU Michigan State tailgate. And so I couldn't quite.
It was the back end of the tailgate as well. So we had been going for a few hours at this point. Actually, like 6 hours into the
better question would probably be, what was Pearson's first impression of me? Because
crazy.
It was not how I normally am in everyday life. But no, we love Pearson. We are all together right now. Obviously, Halle and I are recording, but this whole weekend we've been together. And he's just
right in.
Yeah, we play. The Welch family plays a lot of games, and he's just been right along for the ride. Yep. So
no, he came downstairs. He was like, "What game we playing?" Yeah, I was like, "They're gonna love you." Ooh, okay, this is a good question too. Can Kelcy rank all T Swift albums from her favorite to least favorite?
This is so hard. I struggled with this. I'm just going to run through them real quick with not much more of an explanation.
So people can't get mad.
Yeah. Let me do a quick preface, though, that the Taylor Swift, and I'm sure this is the case for a lot of people, each Taylor Swift album has such distinct memories of where I was in my life at that period of time. So I have such vivid memories tied to each album that I feel like when I initially thought of ranking my albums, I'm like ranking where I was in each stage of my life when the album, because memories and music are tied so closely together.
For sure.
So when I hear a certain Taylor Swift song or think of a certain Taylor Swift album, I'm like, oh, this is where I was in this period of my life.
Yeah, I kind of love that. It's like cute.
So it's like, I feel like a lot of times when I think of my favorite albums, I'm more thinking of the memories I have associated with the album and not really the music specifically.
Yeah.
But I tried to rank separately from that, just like the memories.
Just based on music.
The memory, no, not necessarily. The memories are still tied into my ranking, but I tried to step away from that a little bit. Okay. So, okay. Well, do you want to guess? What do you think my number one album is? If you had to guess.
I literally don't.
I feel like this would shock people. That's why.
Speak Now.
No.
Oh.
It's actually Lover.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So number one is Lover.
Wait, I want an explanation though, because now I'm curious.
Let me just run through and then you can ask your questions. Okay. Number one is Lover. 2, Fearless. 3, Speak Now.
Okay, I was close.
4, 1989. 5, Midnights. 6, Taylor Swift. 7, Reputation. 8, Folklore. 9, Evermore.
Okay, the Folklore and Evermore, I could have guessed that those would be towards the bottom.
Which, that's where I feel like the memories kind of ties in, because those were the COVID albums. So I'm like, I like those. I'll put those albums on when I want like a chill, whatever, but I don't have very strong life memories tied to those albums. Yeah. Yeah.
That's so funny. Yeah. I feel like the memories I have of listening to Taylor Swift with you, it was during like Speak Now and probably Red and Fearless.
Yeah.
I think those are like the 3 that like songs from those albums come on, like Dear John, Back to December. Like those, every time those come on, I like think of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just funny. Or like Mean.
Uh-huh.
I remember listening to that with you a lot, like growing up. Yeah.
And okay, Yeah, well, we could go into this so in depth.
Wait,
but
why is Lover number one?
My favorite Taylor Swift song ever is Cornelia Street, the live version that she did when she played in Paris. And that's my favorite Taylor Swift song. And I feel like Lover, all of the songs on that album, if a song comes on, I won't skip it. Like if I'm just like shuffling through her stuff.
And that's how you know.
Yeah.
Like I feel like.
Because it's not overplayed. I feel like that was her least overplayed album that I'm not like annoyed with any of the songs.
I feel like the test of like what is really a good album is an album that you could literally sit and listen to from start to end and not have to skip over a single song.
Exactly.
And that is like, that's when you know you found a good album.
Exactly. So,
okay, I like that.
Yeah.
More Taylor Swift content because of course we can't help
the people
ourselves.
Want it. The people asked for it. Okay. So I think that's all the questions we'll do for this Q&A episode.
Thank you though for everyone who sent them in. It just like makes it fun and less work for us because then we don't have to come up with stuff to talk about. So.
Yeah, definitely. So, okay, perfect. So hopefully that was a little bit entertaining. Now we have some very interesting stuff to get into for if you're trying to, it's kind of along the lines of travel hacking because it's how to save money on booking your flights, when the best time to book your flights are. So I think this is great information. So buckle in. Let's get going. Halle doesn't know any of this stuff.
Yeah, I'm like looking over at your phone.
Yeah.
Like, what are we talking
about?
No
peeking because I'm going to quiz you, make you guess on some things.
Gosh,
so, okay, so the articles I'm going to go through, CheapAir does an annual airfare study where they analyze over almost 1 billion airfares across the US, and then they collectively put all this data together. So they try to identify every year the prime booking window for domestic flights. So flights within the US, basically how far in advance you should book your flight for the cheapest cost. So what would you, if you had to guess?
I've heard 3 weeks is like the prime.
Okay. Yeah. So this airfare said, or this study, it was between 3 weeks and 2.5 months.
Okay.
That's the window, with the prime booking day exactly 42 days before
is going to be where you can get the cheapest price.
Yes. So that's like 6 weeks actually.
Okay.
Right.
Interesting.
Keeping in mind that that's when you can find the cheapest flight, but might not be the best option.
Yeah, because it might be like 2 layovers,
right?
18 hours total.
Exactly,
time.
Or like really early in the morning, or you get in really late at night.
Yeah, because it's like by that time, it's like you play the risk of like, it might be cheaper, but also if you're flying with 4 people, there might only be 1 ticket left on each flight. So
right,
you never know.
But there was another article that well, I'll get into that at the end actually. So, okay, so 42 days before your flight is the best to get the cheapest flight cost for domestic flights. If you prefer to like select your seat ahead of time or things like that, though, you might want to book a little bit earlier. But if you're strictly just going for cost, then that's something to keep in mind. On average, flights change 49 times but it's only within like $100 each time they change. Wow. So really you're not getting huge fluctuations. So if you're making yourself go crazy trying to book a flight for the cheapest
every
cost,
single day.
Exactly. Yeah, it's really maybe only going to fluctuate by $100 or so on average.
Okay, that's good to know actually.
But that kind of brings me to my next question of like looking over and over and over again for your flights, because there's some myths out there that people have said that as soon as you look at flight costs, your computer's like tracking you, or the airline can tell you how many people are looking at this flight. And so they're going to up the cost
the next time you go to look.
Exactly.
They're going to be like, oh, we remember she wants to go to Florida. So the next time she looks, we're going to increase the price.
Yeah. Or so for that reason, some people are like always browse for flights in incognito mode or something like that. That's a myth. That's not true. The flights are fluctuating in price so much that a lot of times as you get closer, so the next days, the flight costs are going to go up anyway because it's just getting closer to that destination. So you don't have to like book your flight the one time you look for it, thinking that the next time you go back in, it's going to be more expensive, or you don't have to worry about incognito mode. That's a myth.
That's like such a valid concern though. The way your phone listens to you, like I would believe it if it was true, you know?
I know. Okay. And then Have you also heard that there's certain days of the week you should buy your flights, not like the day you should fly out on, but certain days to be browsing
I
for
don't know if
flights?
I've ever heard that.
Okay, because I had heard that, and I had heard that certain days of the week are the days you should buy your
Why
flight
would
because
that
they would be
be?
cheaper. I don't know. I just had heard that.
Okay.
But that's also a myth.
Yeah.
So average low airfare varies by less than $1 no matter what day of the week. So the low cost. So
And what's the best? I think I know, but did you see anywhere that says the best days to fly in and out are these days?
What would you guess for that?
I think it's like,
and this is domestic flights, but yeah.
I know like Wednesdays, like Tuesdays or Wednesdays, I think are cheaper.
Yeah, you're so right. It's Wednesday's the cheapest day to fly out.
Okay.
Followed closely by Tuesday. So
yes.
I'll put this graph in the YouTube, but I'll just show you, Halle. It's like Tuesday and Wednesday are like significantly cheaper
to both fly out and come back on.
Yes, to fly on. So on average, $102 cheaper than flying on Sunday. Wednesday would be.
That's crazy.
Okay, and then what do you think is the most expensive month to travel, to fly out?
To travel?
Yeah, the month.
July.
Second. That's second most expensive.
August?
No.
June?
November, because of like Thanksgiving. That's like a huge
I should have thought about that.
Yeah, so November is the most expensive month to travel for domestic flights.
Okay.
July is second most expensive, and then January is cheapest, followed by February and December. So December is actually third cheapest. So despite Christmas, just in general, I think more people kind of stay home.
Yeah, that's true. It's more of like family time. Yeah, for sure.
And then there was an interesting graph for the best time to buy airline tickets in every season. So in winter, it was 42 days in advance, spring, 44 days in advance, summer, 35 days in advance, and fall, 55 days in advance. So again, it doesn't vary by that much, but I just think that's interesting. In summer, you can actually get away with being a little bit more last minute, whereas fall, because I think that's November is probably skewing the fall data.
Yeah.
You have to book a little bit more in advance.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Yep. And then couple tips, check your cancellation fees or like the cancellation policies for airlines, because if you book a flight, then you can continue to monitor the prices. If you have free cancellation or free like rebooking, if you end up later on seeing there's a cheaper flight, then you can just cancel and rebook. So keep that in mind.
Do you know off the top of your head airlines that are always like free rebooking?
Well, I think you just maybe it would be a more expensive ticket that you're doing. So a lot of times I'm like, no, I'm just gonna do
like
this
the insurance that you buy in case like something comes up.
But if you're really trying to, I just don't like constantly looking at flight prices.
Yeah, that stresses me out.
So I'm like, I'm just buying it and I don't care what happens. But that's something to consider if you want to. And then also airlines regularly run promotional deals and discounts on flights using cash or miles. So just be aware of that. Check their website. A lot of times I look at Google Flights, but if you go straight to the actual airline's website, you might get more information on like the promotions and deals and stuff like that going on. So, okay. And then I know a lot of our listeners are interested in more international travel. So we'll get into that data too, which I think that's a lot of domestic travel. It's like you're going for a specific time frame. So you have less flexibility with like when you can book your flights, when you can fly out. But when we're talking like international travel for like big vacations, you can maybe be a little bit more flexible about when you go.
For sure.
So, okay. So then we said 42 days in advance is the best day to buy your flights for domestic, but what would you guess for international on average?
Oh, gosh.
Oh, well, actually, let me say, because that actually varies significantly. If let's say to go to Europe, what would you think is the best time frame to buy your flights? How far in advance?
I want to say more like further in advance. So I would say 5 months.
It's actually 10 and a half months prior.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, which that surprised me.
That's a long time.
So a lot of airlines don't even open their flights until 11 months prior, like between 11 and 12. Definitely like not more than a year in advance. So basically for Europe, as soon as those flights are available, that's actually pretty much when you should be booking them
crazy.
To get the cheapest price.
How do you even know what you're going to be doing 11 months? Like,
yeah,
that's like a honeymoon type thing that you would have to be planning, not like fun family vacation. Like, who even knows?
10 and a half months prior. So, but So then if you're thinking of something like the Caribbean, though, for a flight, that's only 29 days in advance is
Oh,
the prime
wow.
booking window. Only 29 days in advance. But
I wonder why. Like, just like less competition, less
probably
competitive
everybody's trying to
destination.
go to Europe. So I feel like
I
more
also
and more.
think,
This is an updated study. So this was pooling the 2023 data, and so many people went to Europe, I feel like, after
yeah,
COVID. So I wonder how these
are
numbers
gonna
would
go, like,
compare
if
to
they'd go
years past or,
down.
yeah, in the future.
I wonder, because part of me think like Caribbean, I feel like is a big like spring break destination, and I know like so many of my friends in college like all booked their spring breaks like a month before
Yeah.
we had spring break, which like that stressed me out because I had friends that were like, yeah, we still haven't booked anything, and I was like, what are you doing?
Right.
But it like didn't matter. They were like, oh yeah, like it was fine, like we didn't have trouble with anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like destinations like that are banking on business from like younger people that aren't really
True.
good at planning
Yeah,
and kind
maybe.
of just go with the flow. I
Yeah.
don't know if
You
that
can be
affects
rewarded by
anything,
more of the
but
last minute
yeah.
deals. Yeah. And then the cheapest days to fly internationally, domestic was Wednesday, international's Tuesday, and it's on average $145 cheaper than flying on a Saturday. So not crazy when you think about these European flights can be
Over $1,000.
yeah, so a difference of $145 flying on a Tuesday versus a Sunday. Do what you got to do for your trip for it to make the most sense.
Yeah.
Cheapest months are December and February, as
Mhm.
would be expected. This is all for Europe, and then the most expensive are July and June. So
Yep.
those summer months. So and then, okay, couple other things I wanted to mention. So there was this was all from CheapAir, their studies, but they had another article and it was 6 cheap flight booking hacks. And so there was 2 that I wanted to mention. Oh, I already mentioned the one. It's not cheaper to buy on a Tuesday, to actually buy your tickets on a Tuesday. You don't have to shop in incognito mode. So I already said that. And then the other thing they said was embrace the layover. They said a really long layover, this is more for like traveling internationally, a really long layover may save you big bucks and allow you to take a day trip into another destination. Just check the public transport to and from the airport so you can focus on the fun and not get bogged down in transportation logistics.
True.
So yeah, just something to keep in mind. If you have a little bit of flexibility, you can seriously save so much money if you have an overnight layover somewhere. So I feel like I always just skip over those. I'm like, no, absolutely not. But it could be fun.
Could just be a little adventure,
Yeah.
you know?
So keep
Yeah.
that in mind. Okay. And then the last thing, I was just like looking at their website and they had so many like fun little articles, but there was one that was the most and least expensive airport parking in the US.
That's funny.
The most
I'm
expensive
intrigued.
ones were like exactly what you would expect. It was like the big
New
cities.
York,
Yeah, like
Chicago.
exactly. Those were all in the top, like
Yeah.
San Francisco, LA, like those kind of things. But if you had to guess what the least expensive one would be.
Airport in the entire country?
Yes, for airport parking.
Well, there's like tiny airports. So
I don't know if this was like major airports, but I'll just tell you. It was Indianapolis.
I was almost going to say, I feel like everything in Indy is like looking so cheap.
The Indy airport is a great airport.
It's so nice.
And yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, cheapest parking.
Wow.
What a flex.
Okay, let's go. So like, okay, sometimes I like get annoyed with the Indy airport just because it is like smaller, which is nice because you have to do like there's way less lines, that you never have to wait in line for security. It's like not stressful at all. And I
No,
feel like
it's
most
not.
airports are so stressful, but the Indy airport is not. But because it is smaller, a lot of times you like can't get direct flights anywhere, or like flights will be way more expensive out of Indy than they will be from like Chicago or Cincinnati. And so like sometimes it's annoying, but you know, I guess it's like I'm saving money for
I
the
guess.
parking.
No, it's so weird though, because Indy is considered an international airport, but they have hardly
I've
any
never
direct
seen
international
on the
flights.
screen.
It's almost always Indy to Chicago first, or like
Yeah.
Indy to Boston, and then you're going international. I mean, there has to be some.
It's probably
but-
to like Canada.
right, or like Mexico or something, but
Not even Mexico,
really?
I wouldn't think.
yeah,
Maybe,
I
but
know.
I'd
I
be
feel like
surprised.
flying out of India is not ideal,
I know it's really not.
unfortunately, but
The airport is really nice.
it is
though.
a nice airport, and they have cheap parking. So
Woohoo! Come to Indy.
okay, but I think that's all we have for this episode.
No, that was good. I actually learned so much. That was fun. I like the little trivia.
Yeah, hopefully you guys found that interesting. We enjoy doing these types of episodes, so we always like that you guys play along with us and
Yeah.
submit questions and let us have our fun with
For
these.
sure.
So,
and it was fun recording with you.
yeah. Oh my gosh. Hopefully this is maybe something we can do again in the future.
I hope
Testing
so.
it out a little
No,
bit.
It was fun.
It's a little bit stressful to get it going, but we figured it out.
Yeah.
AKA Jackson figured it out for us. So
We're
well,
not
here we are.
technically savvy.
Hopefully
but it's
this,
okay.
I'm like so nervous this isn't recording or something's getting messed up with the recording. So
I think I would cry.
yeah,
but
I definitely would shed a tear,
it's okay.
but no, I think we're good. So, okay, couple closing announcements. As always, please leave us a review, give us a rating on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. Subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can see if you're just listening on audio. If you've been listening on audio the whole time, you're missing out. We have a great little setup. We almost just knocked our drinks down.
That would have been really bad. Our mom would have yelled at us.
Yeah, on her white rug. Yeah, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check us out there. Check out our TikTok.
Merch is still in the works. We aren't leaving you guys hanging on that, I promise. It's just taking a little bit more time to figure out than we expected, which is fine. We figured it would be this way on our first time around, but bear with us. We're figuring it out and we're going to get it out eventually. So
save up your money to spend it
There you
all on
go.
our merch.
There you go.
Okay, so now a couple announcements on what is to come for Love It There. We have 3 more regular city episodes coming your way. Our normal layout, or what am I trying to say? Our normal format. Format for episodes. We have 3 more of those, and then we're going to have our season finale. So we are actually going to take a little break. Halle's starting grad school, and so we're just going to give her a little bit of time to figure that out. I'm taking a little vacation, so we're going to take some time off. We haven't really decided how much time we're going to take off yet, but we appreciate you guys, our loyal listeners that come back every week. So when we do take a little bit of time off, don't forget
give
about
up on
us.
us. We'll
be back.
We're not ending it forever. We're
No.
just taking a break.
This isn't because we have so many episodes still that we need to do for season 2. We have big plans. We might be bringing guests on. So if that's something that excites you or interests you, let us know if you have a great place that you've just been dying to talk about. And that's kind of what's to come for season 2. So we'll take a little bit of time off during the summer, but then we will be back. So don't give up.
All right. I think that's it. I think we're good.
Perfect. All right. Thanks, guys. Enjoy the rest of your week and happy Thursday.
And we'll see you next week. Bye.